Have you seen this? The classic story of mutant animals who must stop a rock star from opening a portal to hell. And it's a cartoon.
Welcome to Have You Seen This?
The world's only podcast about obscure, overlooked, and misbegotten media.
All discussions will be spoiler heavy.
You have been warned.
This show would not be possible without the support of our patrons. If you would like to support our show, join us at patreon.com/haveyouseenthis. Patrons get the show a week early, and $5 supporters also get access to our Discord. Or you can tip us at our Ko-fi. Visit the link in the show notes.
You know, that would be kind of hard to film live. I will say that.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, the effects budget would be insane.
It would be funny if they did a Babe type thing around this movie.
That's what this was missing. Who do we have for this episode?
It's not George Miller. What we have...
Yeah, he said no.
In a very special appearance. I think you know him from mostly from Chapo Trap House. He is that kind voice that you sometimes hear when Felix is stammering too much. It is Chris Wade. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. I like being known
Absolutely.
as the nice boy of Chapo.
We could use someone to show up when one of us starts stammering.
Oh God, we could use a producer so bad, and people who've listened to our show know that. But until then, we will soldier on. Chris, really quickly before we get started with the movie for today, I know that you do have a background in music because in addition to being a podcast producer, you've also promoted events and stuff like that. Do you want to kind of like describe what your career is like in addition to podcasting? Because I'm legitimately curious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly a music fan, or as my wife's blog is titled, IEnjoyMusic.net. I'm a music enjoyer, and I've always loved just going to shows, live music of all kinds. I find my taste gets more diverse and expansive as I get older, and through. My wife and I have a music podcast, a very infrequently updated music podcast at this point, but there's a big backlog called And Introducing. We love talking about music, musician stories, different ways to be a musician. And, it's always been, I guess, a passion of mine. And I have enjoyed, through Chapo and getting to know people through that, the opportunity to promote and help out and just generally assist getting visibility on, and in some cases produce some music related projects. Right now, one thing I've got going on is I'm helping with a new music magazine out of New York called Antics Mag. And God, I should know the URL off the top of my head. I'll look it up, but we're just trying to do what we can to make a little paper real life music magazine. We feel like there's a white space for that kind of thing. Interviews, reviews, stories about that. So anticsmag.com if you want to check that out.
I'm fascinated that people are still making music.
It gets both easier and harder every year, which leads to some interesting developments.
Tim would think that because he only listens to like Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do worse.
Right, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and speaking of music fandom, Chris, I've listened to some of your appearances on other shows. One that springs to mind is your multiple appearances on the Guys podcast. Now, we just had Brian and Chris on recently,
Wonderful.
And you were fortunate enough to get to talk about classic rock guys, which is one of the worst types of guys.
I know. I love going on Guys. I love that Brian thinks of me for that. I feel like I'm too nice for that show because it does require a certain level of judgment and castigation of their subjects. And I'm a little bit of a kind of, at least in music fandom, try to be, again, expansive, let people enjoy things. But yes, it is difficult it is annoying to watch these people with increasingly calcified views of what counts as, quote, rock music in the classic rock guys fandom.
Michael
Nolan specifically.
The worst.
I find it sad more than anything because it is just, if you're passionate about this thing, it is building this little wall around yourself where you can't enjoy it. You let yourself enjoy new things. You have this built-in canon that you consider the only type of music available to you. And
He may as well be a Star Wars fan at that point.
yeah, seriously. So yeah, I always enjoy tapping back in with Brian. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominations for this year just came out. Nothing. I glanced at them briefly. Nothing that comes to mind other than I'm still pulling for my boys Joy Division New Order to finally make it in.
Yes.
Ooh, well,
yes.
you and Tim definitely agree on that. And I also agree that a very important thing of getting older is to continually be open to new things. Like don't just kind of calcify in one position. So we're going to talk about a movie from 1983,
Right.
Rock and Roll.
And you know that this is a movie for rock guys because the musicians are introduced first.
Yes.
Yes. Is it ever? This is the kind of thing that they do not make anymore.
No.
At all.
Maybe because while I'm watching it, I'm wondering who it's for. Maybe that's a question that Chris can answer.
Yeah, I think that they were struggling with that as they were making the movie.
Okay.
And just on those credits, you were right. It is very funny to have the soundtrack cues introduced as if they are the stars of the movies. I believe it is the only time that a band has gotten a credit and special appearance by for Earth, Wind, and Fire for just having a song on the soundtrack.
And they crushed
we know
it,
why
honestly.
we're here. Yeah.
I like that song a lot. Actually, I do like this music. It might be more to my taste than to Tim's because I am the old man of the show. I have the musical taste of the average boomer uncle. Chris, this movie was your idea, which I was very glad about because there have been times when I have inflicted the topic film on a guest and they had to kind of like do their best with it. But may I ask, like, what prompted the choice of this movie?
Yes. Well, I think inflict is a good word for this. I mean, I'm very fond of this movie for its idiosyncratic weirdness. It is, I will start by saying, this is not a good movie or even necessarily a so bad it's like risible and like entertaining to make fun of in a Mystery Science Theater way. But I do find it very interesting as like a fascinating little object of its time. I believe, I was trying to remember how I first encountered this. I believe I found this in college doing your typical movie explorations. And I think that I came to it by watching the animated Heavy Metal movie.
Right. Yeah.
From around this time.
That's the closest analog I can think of because that's also, adult animation, heavy metal throughout. These are pretty much the only two types of this kind of movie, I want to say.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I came from of it. I quite enjoyed the Heavy Metal movie, which I think is a better movie than this, even though it is still weird and malformed in its own ways.
It's uneven, but there's definitely some highlights.
My favorite part of the Heavy Metal movie, and again, we're talking about heavy metal, not necessarily the music genre, the sci-fi fantasy magazine, I believe based out of France of the 70s, and they made an animated feature, also I believe a Canadian production of this, and we can get into the Canadianness of this all in a little bit. My favorite part of that movie is that there's a segment in it where a doughy, nerdy little teenage boy voiced by John Candy gets transmogrified into another dimension as a Conan-like barbarian and goes on adventures. And there's one part where a buxom barbarian woman basically like takes him. And this is the Candy playing like the consciousness of a 12 or 13-year-old getting like sexed by this snoo-snood in the Futurama parlance by this barbarian woman, and you hear the John Candy voiceover in his own head go, I mean, this was great, but I had to find a way to get back home.
I also like too because it's a cartoon, but she's completely topless, and it's him looking at her, and just the voiceover is like, she had the most amazing eyes.
yes, great joke. I quite enjoyed that movie, and I was just trying to find if there was anything else in that same, like, by the same studio or production milieu or anything similar, and that brought me to Rock and Roll, which I watched. This is probably the third time I watched that movie, and that's how I watched it the first time. I came back to it and that was almost 20 years ago at this point. And then I came back to it some other time, just throwing it on for some friends, being like, hey, you want to watch something wacky? And then I watched it again last night, and I don't know, it just came to mind as, whenever I get invited on something like this, I try to dig deep into the kinds of things I want to proselytize that I think I might have a fairly unique fandom of. So this is one that I get to inflict on you guys for inviting me on the show.
Chris, you have come to the right place.
Well, it's better than Cool World, at least.
You think this is better than Cool World?
Yes. Because I watched Cool World when I was a kid, and even as a kid, I'm like, this is bullshit.
Getting an ingrown toenail is better than Cool World.
All right. I think I watched that late at night on HBO, thinking that it was something lurid, and probably formed that kind of opinion on it. I think I would have to revisit it to make a more mature evaluation of its relative crumminess.
I mean, yeah, hey, decide for yourself.
Yeah, and actually, we did cover Cool World on the show many episodes ago with friend of the show, Emma Bowers.
Oh yes, lovely Emma.
Yes, the delightful Emma, Hyenas and Gin on YouTube. If anyone is interested in that postmortem, please go check it out. I can link it. Now, I'll say this because I don't love this movie. I honestly believe that in order to truly love this movie, you have to be a furry.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking animals are a mainstay of cartoons, and they have been for decades. So this one's no different.
Yeah, this is back when they were called funny animals.
Before someone had to get all perverted about it.
Right. So, but the thing is, animators have always been perverted. So
yeah.
That's true.
I mean, filmmakers have always been perverted. So, and then animation is just
sickos.
A higher level of obsessiveness about it. So the
yes,
perversion just increases logarithmically.
That is exactly right. And the people I know who really do love this movie are furries. Shout out Bitter Corella. Now, that's not a bad thing. And I don't obviously, I don't mind furries. Do your thing. And the movie isn't terrible. I was bracing myself a little bit because I had seen it years before and was just like, this really isn't for me. Well, rewatching it now, you can't not appreciate the love and care that went into this movie. A feature animation.
However misplaced, yes.
With a very young crew. Most of the animators were kids right out of school. All the better to exploit, but they're proud of it if you read interviews with people who worked on it. But a very young and enthusiastic production staff, and they really believed in what they were making, and it really comes through because if nothing else, this movie is pretty incredible to look at as feature animation goes.
Yeah, especially for its time. There's some effects in this that are awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is where my appreciation of this comes from. Is I do tend to enjoy things that are a little reach exceeds their grasp. That the ambition behind this is a little higher than what they could actually achieve, but you can tell that there is stuff here and that there's real talent behind it.
You've come to the right show, Chris.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way that I feel about animators. No offense, but yeah, in addition to them being the most obsessive, horny, creative field, you don't want to have animators write a story, but you do kind of want to just just point them in a direction and let them go, because they will come up with some of the freakiest, most insane, wacky shit you can possibly imagine. But to try to have it make sense and be cohesive, you do not want to put that in an animator's hands. If you want something that just, if you look at it and you're like, where did you even come up with that? That is the value of it.
That is, I 100% agree with that. And I think kind of the apotheosis of that is animator Richard Williams, who very famously worked on The Thief and the Cobbler for 30 years.
Yes.
Lost control of the production. Had it taken away and finished by somebody else, and it left us with the movie that remains. Now, parts of that film as it exists are incredible because Richard Williams is probably one of the masters of animation of all time. Incredible. He also, another movie we covered on the show, Raggedy Ann and Andy, A Musical Adventure. Also-
like a decade ago.
Also taken away from him because he was spending too much time fritting around trying to get everything just perfect. And I think that can be really representative of an animator, because it's a career that involves like so much like minute work and attention to detail, and like isolating yourself to get something to look just right.
Mhm.
And it's hard to write a coherent feature length story anyway. Now, get about 200 kids like just out of college, and the guy's running the studio, and it's like, what are you going to come up with? It's really not going to be that, coherent or impressive. And Rock and Rule certainly embodies that, because the story is dead simple.
Yeah, but it is going to look cool because,
Yeah.
like you're
Yes.
saying about the visuals, there we haven't even described the story, such as it is. Mock is a powerful music producer. He kind of like lords over this post-apocalyptic environment. We have what Omar and Angel are like the two leads of this scrappy little punk band. Mock wants Angel's voice to complete his like musical piece that will open a portal to another dimension. And he does like kind of lure them to back to his lair. This happens about 20 minutes in, where where Mock kind of sidelines Omar and the rest of the band with like this like psychedelic like freak out. And I'm noting too that we're about 20 minutes into the movie, so if you took some shrooms at the start of it, they're going to kick in right about now.
Yes. Yes.
So
in screenwriting, they call it, the first, or like the first act break, or
yeah, the inciting
first act cliffhanger,
incident. Yeah,
the inciting incident. In animation, you call that the come up.
right.
Especially in those days, man.
Yeah.
This is a very man movie. I just to complete the circle on, animation construction and the kind of people who become animators and animator obsessiveness.
Yeah.
You guys had me thinking that like the other end of that is kind of what then became the Pixar model, where it was very much writer directed, or that was the thing that, even though they were developing this amazing animation technology, like that was the thing that became their hallmark to success, is that they had these like obsessive writers who would like spend years breaking these stories and like getting the beats of their storytelling absolutely perfect. And that is what like fueled that golden age of Pixar movies, like Toy Story through, I don't know, Cars 2 or whatever. They were fundamentally like story obsessed first. And I think that really comes through in like the honestly like beautiful story construction of a lot of those early Pixar movies, and then kind of came to bite them in the ass when they ended up becoming so formulaic, and the technology had kind of hit a plateau of excellence, even though they do continue to improve. Like they became almost a slave to their own storytelling conventions, because that was the thing that sold that studio and sold their films so well. I just think that's like an interesting counterexample of two different ways to approach animation, because from everything I read, they were basically figuring out this movie as they animated it, and originally thought that it was going to be like a lighthearted children's movie, and that is not what the final product is.
Yeah, and then they were like, what if we drew nipples on the dogs?
Yes.
What then?
Yeah.
Like no one asked any of the animators to do that, but you leave a guy alone, he just starts doodling. Boobs are going to happen eventually.
Boobs and butts.
Yeah. And
Just-
like you're saying, like Pixar does kind of become beholden to that like house style that they have, which is why it's so refreshing seeing a movie like Rock and Roll, where the animation is again something that like I haven't seen outside of like Heavy Metal or like a Ralph Bakshi movie. Something that's just totally different from like the Disney style, from like Saturday morning cartoons, from the sort of thing that you are surrounded by, in different forms of animation.
But it also leads to this insane tonal mishmash of this movie, because it's not fully adult, nor is it fully kid friendly. And it, to me, on this rewatch, it kind of made me feel like a mishmash of like the Great Mouse Detective and Akira, which are like two flavors that do not taste great together, you know?
Right.
Instead of Tetsuo always yelling out "Radigan!"
Right, yeah, exactly.
I agree with you about kind of like the tonal weirdness. It's definitely not for kids, even if you leave out like the kind of adult humor and art that is in it. Kids would just be totally baffled by this.
Like, kids aren't huge fans of Cheap Trick.
Well, they should be.
Well, I mean,
great tunes.
Yeah.
maybe in the late 70s. I don't know.
Yeah.
The environment is like this post-apocalyptic dystopia, like populated by animals, and it's very, very dark, very like proto cyber. This was right on the cusp of cyberpunk. It's like proto.
Yeah, it's grimy and like wet and like brown.
Yeah. And yet, it's very oddly beautiful in a weird way. The name that keeps coming up, of course, in discussions of adult animation is, of course, Ralph Bakshi. I already shit on the guy for Cool World, which was really not his fault. I will give him that. That was the studio, which basically kind of muscled in and said, like, no, we got this. I appreciate Bakshi for what he means for the industry. Not a huge fan of his work because I genuinely find it unpleasant to look at.
Yes.
Which is
and that's another
which is
point
partially
too.
the point. Yeah, like it's Bakshi is not gonna give you like 9 old men like Disney bullshit. Like, but even though like he knows
the 9 old men were scabs, by the way, but that's beside the point.
Right. God, we could really go into that, but we'll save shitting on Disney for another day. He absolutely understands the craft, and he has a voice, and damn it, he's going to use it any way that he wants. Like a while back, I watched like about half of Heavy Traffic, and I was like, okay, well, I don't like this at all, but like, I get it. Like this, it's really, his voice is like really coming through on this one, and it really captures an environment and a time. And I hate looking at these characters, but like they're really well rendered. I don't feel that way about Rock and Rule, even though a lot of it is like sort of like ugly on purpose or kind of futuristic in a weird way. Like it's so well rendered and executed that most of the pleasure for me, like apart from the soundtrack, comes from just like watching it and kind of marveling at it. Like, damn, like they put so much into this movie. It looks incredible.
Yeah, and it is like, I think that that's kind of the joy and frustration of watching, you know, whether it's Bakshi or Bluth or this, is these attempts to find different tones of commercial animated films that could work outside the Disney model. And that, I think that these essays to do this during the 80s are really interesting, because this is like when Disney itself is at a kind of nadir of creative output. So there is this opening to be like, is there a different way to do this? And I also agree that I don't think that any of these are totally successful. I kind of agree that Bakshi is vaguely off-putting often, which is why it's good. It's interesting to watch. It's more as I said up top, it's more fascinating than genuinely enticing. Probably Don Bluth is the most successful of trying to create a different commercial animation style. But even he, I feel like stylistically has more in common with Bakshi and this production company, Nirvana, than, you know, the old style. Although he approaches it with stuff like I don't know, like Penguin and the Pebble or Pebble and the Penguin, whatever that, you know, some of his 90s stuff where he gets more Disney-ish.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's these cracking open of doors of, is there a different path for this style of commercial art that never really go anywhere, but, you know, interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I think Bluth is probably the one who's done that most successfully, to have his own particular style without going too far afield as a lot of these other, like you say, these kind of like digressions have tried to say, let's do a different type of animation, but audiences just find it too off-putting, or maybe like you say, it doesn't really quite tonally land, and audiences are just confused.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably as close as we're able to get to like a viable third style of animation.
Yeah.
There must be a third way.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I would say that who really cracked it were the DreamWorks people by just making it like so goofy and cliched, and the classic DreamWorks face, the one eyebrow raise, the rubbery faces, and kind of like the smug but adorable, humanoid animation style. Yeah, I think they ultimately won by finding the other path than Disney and Pixar, I guess.
It is nice anytime that someone does try a different kind of animation,
Yeah.
which you sort of appreciate it even if maybe you don't enjoy it.
Well, that's I think why like something like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse took off, because that showed some people something that they hadn't seen before.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, people really, really liked that movie.
It's a shame the amount of work that had to go into it, and then was like, trashed and then redrawn and trashed and tried again.
I mean, the final product is very impressive.
That's true.
That's the life of a production artist too, is you get your heart broken constantly, I think. And this movie is and this happens all the time in the industry. We've talked about lots of movies like this where there was a tremendous outlay of money and time, and then it just got dumped into theaters for 2 seconds and then kind of disappeared until people came back around to it.
Yeah.
And I know this movie, and Chris, thank you for mentioning Studio Nelvana, which still, I don't know that the animation studio still exists. Nelvana exists as an entity owned by a Canadian media corporation called Chorus. So Nelvana stuff is out there. I'm sure they're exploiting like all the intellectual property that goes with it. I don't know if anybody is animating for them necessarily, but hey, like we can all like hold our breath waiting for that 4K Ultra HD disc of the Get Along Gang or whatever they're going to do with it.
Gritty reboot of Inspector Gadget.
They tried that with Matthew Broderick. It didn't work.
Not gritty enough.
Gritty. Yeah. So Nelvana still kind of like looms large, even if they aren't really like producing anything. At the time, they were kind of finding their own way with like quite a bit of success. They'd done weird stuff like The Devil and Daniel Mouse, and like I think most famously the Boba Fett segment from the Star Wars Holiday Special, aka the only good part of the Star Wars Holiday Special is kind of how people frame it now.
Wow, the big slam on Harvey Korman.
Jesus.
I've never actually seen the Star Wars Holiday Special. I know that is like a legendary nerd artifact, but I've never gone out of my way to actually consume it.
It's pretty punishing.
It feels like it's about 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, it is. It is a sight to behold, and a good reminder of like just how shitty TV was in the 70s.
That's cultural wasteland. Yeah,
like they just did not give a fuck beyond putting something to fit 2 hours.
The intersection of how big Star Wars was and how shitty 70s TV was.
It captures a great moment in time.
Two tastes that go terrible together.
Again.
Getting back to Nelvana, this movie was purchased from them by, I want to say MGM UA, and then dumped in the theaters for a hot second, and then everybody moved on. I don't know the reasoning behind it. There's always some kind of like shady math that goes into this like studio bullshit generally. And I would be really curious to hear the story of how they justify this very expensive product. And I don't know if it's a write-off. I'm really bad at this kind of finance shit. That's why I'm not rich, because I don't understand any of it. And that's the only reason I'm not rich. It's not because I'm a podcaster.
As soon as we break triple digits on our subscribers, I think we're home free.
Woo!
But it's also like legitimately, how do you market this?
Right? Yeah. Who is this for? I don't know. Like fans
Furries
of Earth,
were
Wind,
to
and
market
Fire.
back then.
Yeah.
even in like the kind of febrile moment of the early 80s where, you know, I guess your first emergence of kind of nerd market and still the hangover of a kind of like hippie alternative 60s and 70s, and you know, kind of also sophisticated thing of a milieu of being like, yeah, I mean, I guess animation can be cool for adults. Again, it's so, the tone and product are so bizarre that I just don't think that there's any effective way to find an audience for this other than as a cult artifact.
I'm reminded of another movie that we talked about, FM, which is sort of like in search of a counterculture, but not
Mhm.
really knowing what it looked like, or what it should cater to. So it
Another
might have
banging
been,
soundtrack in search of a story.
yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, this is better than FM, by the way. I have to say, because FM
Yes.
is just a slog. This is fun if you like science fiction-y kind of things, adult animation, or if you're a fucking furry. You know, there's stuff to enjoy. But I know I keep hammering on that, but it's right up front. Like the whole world is populated by like mutant like dogs, cats, and
And rats,
rats.
yeah, which
Yeah.
has no bearing on the story.
Yeah. It really doesn't. Like, and it's funny, they feel it's necessary to call out like right at the beginning to be like, okay, this is why these characters look like this. Okay.
Yes, there's an opening crawl like justifying their character designs.
It's like you could have just not done that. I don't know, but like if they aren't animals, then do maybe people ask, well, why is this animated? It's
and
you pull that thread, the whole thing starts to unravel.
And a really funny quote that appeared in a review of the time by Janet Maslin, writing for the New York Times, is that she says, unfortunately, like a lot of the male characters, as she puts it, tend to have doggy-looking muzzles. And I'm
Mm.
like, did she miss the expository card right up front? Because it's like there's a reason they have dog muzzles. They called it out.
She arrived 2 minutes
Yeah.
late. Yeah, just didn't.
She was high.
I generally like the animation in this. One of the things that bothers me is that like our dog characters, like our main, our quote unquote hero Omar, uh, he does have on profile a very pronounced dog nose and muzzle, but then when he turns like towards the camera, towards the face, it like completely disappears. And I find it
Yeah.
that perspective shift, like his face looks flat when he's facing towards the camera and very protruded when he's facing profile, and I find that very distracting, that transition.
Also, if they're animals, none of them have a tail. It's weird.
Yes.
So, like, what is it?
I will leave it to the furries to speculate on the size and shape of the characters.
Don't even
because I
get
know you
into
all
it.
have.
No,
I know you have. I know
They're-
you all put it on Furfinity.
Yeah. Mock has a trio of guards, and they're all dogs. Guard dogs. Huh?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Zip, Toad, and Sleazy, which might actually be their given names.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer something like, I don't know, Duke or Rover, but whatever.
Also, what happened to this kind of goon? Because this was such a specific type of character in like 20th century media for ages, is the okay boss. Like what, how come you don't see guys like that anymore?
I feel like, again, this maybe from the like Pixar writing school or DreamWorks overly quippy and pop culturally referenced. Like I feel like there's a need to give even the goons a kind of pathos, which eventually one of our goons in this movie does get a little moment of pathos to
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
But there's no reason that you can't just drape that over the okay boss archetype. And of course we've got like there are three of them. One's overtly dumb, one's mean, and one's like the smart guy.
Yeah. And
That's
we
how
find out
all
later.
triplets work.
Yeah.
There's always a dumb one and a smart one.
And through the course of their adventure, we find out that they also have a sister who,
Yes.
yeah, she's built like a linebacker but dressed like a cheerleader. It's very
Yes.
off-putting.
She is one hot mama.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite characters in this.
Yeah.
You know, we outlined the plot a little bit. Eventually Mock uh, kidnaps Angel, our vocalist, to use her voice to power his demon machine. And
Mhm.
then in a sequence I quite like, the girl guard dog, Cinderella, I believe.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
Cindy for
Cindy.
short.
Absconds with Angel to go clubbing in a great sequence in the middle of this movie, scored by probably one of the better songs on the soundtrack, the Earth, Wind, and Fire song.
Yeah.
Yes.
A great little blink and you miss a detail. I believe when they first hit the club, it pans past one of our sleazy club characters doing what to me looked like drinking a soda through two straws put into his nose.
Yeah, soda. It's a
Yes.
special soda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sort of. Club 66 is an analog for Studio 54, I
Of
suppose.
course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, the doorman there, very serious about his job because he's vaporizing mutants who were trying to get in.
That's the future for you.
Yeah. But yeah, Cindy and Angel are able to get in, and yeah, Chris, like you say, there's it's a great like visual set piece along with what we've seen before of that kind of like psychedelic freak out of when Mock kidnaps Angel, and when he basically like gets the rest of her band high. So you are in for like another visual treat of just like seeing freaky shit on the screen, even if like the movie itself and the story is kind of whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go through like story beat by beat, but I feel like it's maybe better to highlight moments from this because
Yeah.
it is something that you're kind of like barely. It needs minimal attention to understand the story, and then once every like 5 minutes or so, it'll bust out some kind of visual or animation thing, trick,
Yeah.
effect,
Yes.
filmic effect that does just make you go, whoa, how did they do that? And whether it's, the kind of abstract club space of this club, or, earlier as Mock is stalking the band in their shitty club gig to, see if Angel is the right voice. He's talking to a computer interface in his car that looks like kind of mind-blowing CGI for 1983, but I don't think it's a CGI computer face. I think it's forced computer graphic looks
Yeah.
via animation.
Yeah, and it has like this kind of nice pentagram motif too to
Yeah.
the design.
Yeah, and I think it's like slit scan photography, like was used for like the gateway sequence in 2001.
Sure.
Don't quote me on that, because when anytime I try to read about in particular like animation effects and like the work that goes into it, like my my brain just kind of like locks up and I'm like, wait, what? But my hat is off to them because it does look really cool. And in fact, I did see an article very recently that was about it was a whole like blog post about this kind of like sort of glowing animated effects that was in nope, not this one. Never mind.
Yeah,
sorry.
it's kind of like that anime sparkle light thing. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, did you read that article?
No, I can't read.
Yeah, because I tried and it was so like it got like really technical really fast, and I was like, yeah, cool. So again, hats off to them because I can't explain it, but it looks fucking cool. I'll say
There's
that.
some stuff in here, even in that same sequence. There's like a moment of Mock is in the back of his limo and he's all in dark, and he's like punching up on this key panel that's all these blue light keys that just feels very anime to me, even though I mean, maybe this is a wrong assumption, but I assume that the people who are animating this did not have much contact with that kind of animation vocabulary. And it's just interesting to see something that looks very, very anime-like in a very, very Western animated tradition cartoon like this.
Yeah, because there's that cyberpunk aesthetic, especially in a lot of Mock's gear, like the the limo that he's riding around in, his computer, and like his like console where he's like making his music. It all has that very sort of
Yes.
light up anime look to it. And yeah, even when he's like consulting the computer about like what is the uh, like musical, like what is the melodic sequence that we need to follow, like it presents one and it shows him to him in 3D spaces like this. It's not an Ouroboros, that strip that kind of folds in back in on itself.
Yes.
Yeah,
Moebius.
Mobius
Mobius.
strip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in
So
fact, they were the animators were greatly inspired by the French artist of the same name, which I think
That makes a
that
lot of
fits.
sense.
Yeah.
yeah comes through quite a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, you are seeing a lot of cool graphic effects like that, and yeah, Chris, you're right. That is the important thing to highlight in this movie is that stuff happens, blah blah blah, and then we get to a scene where it's like, well, let's just do all the cool shit we can.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't follow the thing about adding like that animated lighting effect, but they did. In the making of featurette, they talked about having a computer controlled multiplane camera, and that's how they're doing like parallax effects and like depth of field and different folks things like one of the other things too that I liked is there is just a brief shot where it is a guy like talking on a video phone, and then you get like the video feed of the animation cells. So there's kind of this mixed media approach that they're doing in here.
Yeah, and that is, I think, one of the more fascinating things about this is that it never stops expanding its animation vocabulary as it goes on.
Yeah.
They're throwing you
Yeah.
different stuff. It's not a long movie; it's like 77 minutes, but like
Mhm.
an hour into the movie, you're seeing them do something that you have not seen them do yet into the movie. That makes you kind of go like, how are they pulling this off? Because it does, in a certain way, it looks kind of cheap, but also certain things are effects that I've never seen in another animated movie.
Right. Yeah. It is a nice showcase of animation techniques more than a satisfying narrative, maybe.
Yeah. And along those lines, the characterization, I would love to talk about like some of our characters for a second. One of the things that bothered me in this rewatch is how much of an asshole our ostensible hero, Omar,
Ugh.
is.
Right. We never get a chance to really like him.
No.
That was basically mostly what I remembered from watching this movie many years ago. Is like, oh man, I remember the main guy is just like such a dick. It's like, shut up, dude. And I genuinely think that they just didn't they just didn't take the time really to develop the character, and maybe for a story like this, they didn't find it exactly necessary. It's like, yeah, he's the hero and he's kind of abrasive. You got to have conflict. So, he's just going to be really mean to.
Yeah, he's
to
like a
Angel
cocky
and-
rock guy. You know what they're like.
Yeah. And interesting thing that I didn't know about is that there was another Canadian voice actor who voiced Omar for the American release. They got Paul Lamette, I think most famous from American Graffiti, who I think does like a good job, because and I'll link it, if you go to like the Internet Archive, there's a Canadian VHS cut of this movie, and you can hear the other guy's voice, and it's like kind of more like cartoony and obnoxious. So I think like the correct choice was made in this case.
Yeah, I know that there are notoriously two cuts of this movie. The one that most people have seen, which is the US release, and then that Canadian version of it, which, other than the voiceover, I think is supposed to be quote unquote better because it is more of the original animator's intent. However, it only exists as a VHS rip. So I don't know. Someday, in another 10 or 20 years, I'll go back and watch the Canadian VHS version of it to see if it improves in my standing.
The next time you're on a
that's so
podcast
much
to talk
better.
about rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Any day now.
Rock and roll revisited.
And to speak a little more on the characters, Omar is a dick, and then the rest of the characters aren't really that developed beyond like comedy relief sidekick. The girl.
There's a fat one and a skinny one.
I
Yeah.
will say I don't know if you guys are familiar with this music joke / meme. There's a fat one and a skinny one. They're the rhythm section. The skinny one is like kind of a shaggy type, dopey, lanky. He's the bassist. The fat one is like a fat nerd with glasses who's smarter and genuinely like solves the things in it. But his character design is very. If your drummer looks like this, you're gonna die in the pit.
If that drummer looks like a fat gopher, like you're fucked, dude.
Yes.
Yeah, the real heart and soul of the band.
Yeah.
Oh, constantly overlooked. Yeah, a shame.
And, you know, I mean, the characters do what they need to do, which is kind of provide like a little bit of, you know, like I said, comic relief and some heroics.
Yeah, I mean, like the drummer, I feel more like affinity for him than the lead than Omar, because
Yeah.
the drummer's the one who actually like tries to help something. Omar's
And
mostly
like figures out what's going on and
Yeah.
and convinces the lead guitarist to actually do something about it.
right.
Yeah, and Omar doesn't even want to let Angel play the song she's written, which is just, I'm sorry, like not to pit Blondie against Cheap Trick here, but like Angel's song is just an objectively better song, and it is the
Yes.
linchpin of the entire movie. It is.
I can see why I didn't want to let her sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said, you know, he just doesn't want to let a woman become too powerful. Isn't
Angel's
Yeah.
singing voice, we should say Debbie Harry. We
Right.
haven't
Debbie
even mentioned that Mock, the character whose original name was Mock Swagger, as an overt Mick Jagger ripoff until
I get
Mick
it.
Jagger's people said you can't do that. Mock is singing voice by Lou Reed and Iggy Pop.
Like, if you can think of a more decadent amalgam, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah. And the Mock character design is genuinely very cool and creepy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got kind of a like Iggy Pop / Dracula kind of thing going
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Yeah, like the mouth is just like really upsetting, kind of in the same way Mick Jagger's mouth is. So
Oh.
my hat is off to the animators, and you know, mostly I think what people remember about this movie most of the time is the song that goes something like "My name is Mock, thanks a lot," which of course is a Lou Reed composition in the best
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
most
obvious.
inimitable Lou Reed style.
Yes. I mean, that's another reason that I brought this to you is that, these songs are great, but every once in a while, my name is Mark. Thanks a lot. And the Cheap Trick song at the beginning that Omar sings, that's like, I wasn't born for loving, I was born to raise hell. Those just come back to my mind every once in a while and get stuck and rattle around in there. So, none of this soundtrack is any of the artist's best work, but there are a few little earworms in there. Despite the fact, another flaw of this movie, the sound mixing in the available versions is really muddy and difficult to parse at sometimes, especially with the music, which should be the selling point of this movie.
Yes. Yeah, especially on like when Omar starts slashing away at his song when the band first goes on stage. Like it's not like you said, it's not a bad song, but like it kind of like sounds like a big mush.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, maybe that's the point.
That was the thing that I wondered. I was like, is it me? Like, do I?
Is
Do I
it
just
this
not like this
YouTube
music?
version that I'm watching? Like, is there better?
Right.
But I've watched this again 3 times now, and every time I'm like, I can't. What's cool? Is there something wrong here? But you can listen to those songs at the studio recordings on streaming anywhere. And that Border Race Hell song, pretty good. I'm a big Cheap Trick fan though.
Oh, okay. I'm only superficially familiar with Cheap Trick, a little more familiar with Blondie, but they had some bangers, and the music for this is actually pretty good. Also, very key to the soundtrack is composer Patricia Cullen, who hits you right up front with that really cool synth motif, and that's the kind of thing which is just like catnip for me. Like, I love stuff that sounds like that. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Yes, it sounds a little bit like Laser Blast, but shut up. It's cool. There's also kind of in addition to the disco track by Earth, Wind, and Fire, there's also a weird, like, new wave track, which is by Patricia Cullen, the composer, and another singer who is billed as Melanie Melody, who I believe performs to this day as Melly Fresh, and she was actually married to the director, Clive Smith. And this song, it almost feels like it's supposed to be like a comedy song or a gimmick song, and what it reminds me of is like that one Liz Phair album that everybody hated that she put out online. It's like and it's so jarringly different from the rest of the soundtrack, which is it's either like synth heavy or rock heavy, and then there's this weird kind of skeletal bony song.
Which
yeah, it's
is
like
this?
a new wave oddity. It's called I believe it's called hot dog sushi or something like that.
Yeah,
which I
hot
don't
dogs and
believe
sushi.
I don't believe a full version exists. I think you can only hear the minute and change clip that's in the movie, which is a shame because that is one of the best oddities of this movie. And I was trying to track down this Melody person, and I noticed on Spotify that she has a lot of collabs with Deadmau5 listed. I didn't take the time to track these down, but maybe she just did like one song with him and re-released it a bunch of times. I don't know, but that makes sense. Deadmau5, another Canadian.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the connection.
This movie is Canadian excellence through and through. This movie is as Canadian as Geddy Lee at an Expos game.
Yes.
SCTV.
Oh, and in fact, Catherine O'Hara is a voice in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I would say it's the more SCTV adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, she and Maurice LaMarche were the only two like voice actors that I recognized in it.
In tiny bit parts.
Right, yeah. Yeah, Catherine O'Hara, she does like a character's in like one scene in the same scene with Maurice LaMarche, and he has like 3 lines and then he gets vaporized.
The life
but
of
doing
an
a
actor.
very classic Maurice LaMarche French accent.
Right. But yeah, I really liked the score overall more
Yeah.
than I liked the actual songs in it. But it was also like you talked about the songs that went together, and I think it was the composer who talked about the like because the theme of the movie is they do mention it earlier on. They're like mock no one person can defeat you, and the wording on that is deliberate because it's people collaborating and working together. It's one voice, one heart, one song, as they say. And the song at the climax of the movie is a collaboration of all the various musicians being mixed together into this one track. It, again, in the featurette, they mentioned it's like they had 2 24-track mixers that they're using to put, a little bit of Cheap Trick, a little bit of Blondie, a little bit of Lou Reed, and a little bit of this and that to get like the final song to say, hey, this culmination is the result of everyone working together.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I do find the ending fairly satisfying, especially because, as we mentioned before, it's in this massive effects drenched demon summoning sequence that is genuinely very sick. Like that is almost worth the price of admission to get to this big, like very stylistically unique climax that weaves together all the musical through lines of the show of the movie. And even as we said, like the story is not much to write home about, but it gives a good satisfying villain death, and Omar and Angel get together and they sing together and everything comes together, and I mean it works. It's satisfying. It's very fun to watch.
Yeah, it does what it sets out to do. And the way that you describe like the demon when summoned, like I didn't have a way to describe it other than to say it looks like a bad trip.
Yeah.
Because again, they're doing some really impressive things with animation where it's just like just throw something gnarly that I've never seen before at the audience.
Yeah, it's really cool. And for how lightweight the story is, it's a credit to the crew, like how well the ending kind of comes off, because you are kind of genuinely swept up in the emotion of the finale. And when Angel decides that she's gonna sing, it's like hell yeah, even though like I was like, wait a minute, like I haven't been this invested in this chick singing or not, but it's like it's really cool, and like you're like, yeah, I actually do want to see Mock.
And it's Debbie Harry
Stanley
singing,
yeah, and the song, God, that song, gets in my head and just stays there. It's my compliments to Debbie Harry and Chris Stein, because they wrote a durable one.
Yeah.
And it's really appropriate to the feel and the tone of the movie.
Yeah. I will say, since I am very apologetically do have to wrap up fairly soon, I'm sorry to only be able to give you guys an hour, but
Oh, no sweat.
this
You couldn't get into 77 minutes like Rock and Rule?
this another reason that this was in my head is that I've been working on it is on a list of movies I've been trying to develop, that is movies to place on silent in a bar.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
and I have a letterbox list, movies to play on silent in the back at a bar, and the kind of movies that are, visually either stunning or perplexing, that you really don't need to have the audio on for. Although, again, this is a rock and roll movie, it has a good rock and roll soundtrack. The music is, if you're going to watch this with the sound, gotta have the music. But it is the kind of thing that, in that kind of media forward dive bar, where you just kind of sit down and catch it out of the corner of your eye and are like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I think
It's-
that is
it's
kind of the
something-
primary value for something like this.
It's something that you want to know more about, even though when you do, you're disappointed.
Yes, exactly.
It's funny you say it, Tim, because I was reminded of the time we were at whatever that one like arcade place in the valley is, and
Yeah.
they were showing Krull on the TVs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And they were like, "Oh, it's Krull." And I
Sorry.
know, like, I have some fondness for it. Tim has strong feelings in the opposite direction for Krull, to the point where he almost fought friend of the show Bitter Corella about it physically. I exaggerate, but you get my point. But yeah, like Chris, I think you hit on it, because the real pleasures of the movie are primarily visual. It is incredible in terms of the visuals. Not a bad soundtrack.
It's almost better out of context.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like, I actually think that there is a YouTube video called Rock and Rule Out of Context. That might be like, if you're listening to this and you don't want to watch the whole movie, which is also all on YouTube, you can just watch it on YouTube. So if you do want to watch it, it's just there. But if you just want to kind of get the vibe, there is a YouTube video called Rock and Rule Out of Context that's a minute 40 long, 100 seconds, that'll probably give you all the best stuff from this.
Or if
Yeah.
you just get heroically high, just completely stone baked off your ass.
Yeah.
And
That's
enjoy
another
it that
value
way.
of this.
Yeah.
This movie does crop up on streaming sometimes. I recall seeing it on Tubi a while back. There is a very nice copy with some extras on the Internet Archive. I will link it, and I encourage you all to, if you're interested, to grab it before MGMUA or somebody cracks down.
Yeah, they're going to get merged with another media company later today, I think.
And I do agree with Tim that maybe get like high as fuck if you watch this in its entirety, because I think that'll only increase the dividends.
It's not going to make it
From it.
worse.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
How
That's
could it,
exactly
really?
right. I want to say thank you, Chris, for doing this. How are you doing on time?
I can give you maybe like 5 more minutes.
I have brief digressions on Daft Punk's Interstellar 5555 and Gorillas
Okay,
as
go for it.
just other examples of that kind of mixed media, different style of animation. Because I remember when I, first, was introduced to Gorillas from their first 2 albums. Like, their videos were really, tour de force
Yes.
examples of animation, like just mixing like the cell animation and the 3D animation, and just presenting different sort of worlds with it. Like Feel Good Inc., I feel, would not be out of place in Rock and Rule.
Mhm.
And yeah, Interstellar 5555, the Daft Punk sort of feature, that also
With Leiji Matsumoto designs.
right, yeah, that follows a similar model about musicians and fascism and collaboration and things of that sort. So I just wanted to mention those as 2 other examples.
Wasn't there a thing with Interstellar,
Yeah.
whatever numbers it is, that Like,
Yeah, they up-res her with AI because like they don't have the masters anymore, and like the
Mm.
originals are interlaced and it looks bad.
oh, well,
Yeah.
that's too bad. And I believe that
Yes.
with Rock and Roll, there was like a loss of some of the elements of the film in a
Depending on
fire.
the source that you see, it's either by a fire or a flood.
It was by act of God. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
It's locust and a mudslide. That's how much people didn't like this movie.
Right. So, but hey, it is out there, and I believe it is worth checking out, if for nothing else, some pretty good tunes and some really stunning visuals.
Yeah, again, it's I can't in good conscience call this good in any way, but if you're into animation oddities, I would say that it's a pretty fascinating watch. And yeah, again, it's kind of ground zero for a lot of animation stuff. Like the Nirvana people, I think this movie made them go bankrupt, but from the bankruptcy ashes, they went on to be a very successful TV animation studio. If you watch any
Yes.
animated TV in the early 90s, from like, it's, as I said, you remember the Nirvana polar bear logo, and from like
Yep.
everything from Care Bears to Inspector Gadget to the Beetlejuice TV show. Like they had tons
Eek the
of stuff.
cat.
Eat the Cat. And I
Yeah.
believe even stuff like, I was going through some of the animation department credits on this, and like the director of Lion King was in the animation department on this movie. It's kind of it just a proving ground for a lot of people that went on to do other seminal stuff in the animation industry.
Yeah, and this surely must have been like a trial by fire for
Yeah.
a young animator, the amount of work that went into it. But yeah, so this is a legit piece of kind of important animation history, all from our friends up north. So, thanks, Canada. Sorry, our president's being so mean to you lately.
Yes.
Well, it's sort of like the Roger Corman thing. Like, if you do well in this project, you'll never have to work at Nelvana again.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I really appreciate your time, and I know you have a baby to put to bed, so I don't
Yes.
want to keep you any longer than necessary. But I
Well-
hope new fatherhood is treating you well.
Well, I can't wait till the baby's old enough to show them Rock and Roll.
That's going to be one cool
At
baby.
what age would you show a child Rock and Roll?
It really depends on the kid, I think.
22?
Yes.
Maybe start with American Pop. No, wait, don't start with American Pop. I take that back. I take it back.
No, well, thank you guys very much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you can show your support by going to patreon.com/haveyouseenthis and make a pledge at the $2 or $5 tier. $5 a month gets the latest episode before everyone else, plus access to our Discord, where we're always arguing about movies. If you'd like to give us a tip, our Ko-Fi link is in the show notes.
We keep it very loose because we're not capable of more. We're actually very stupid.